An Arctic wasteland, but it's actually pretty cool. A former place of exiles, now a major player of the energy industry. This is in short Yamalo-Nenets. Stick around to find out more. Hello and welcome to 7 Facts. Yamalo-Nenets is one of the many federal subjects of Russia. It's an autonomous okrug or district, but at the same time it's a part of the Tyumen Oblast. Even so, at the federal level, it shares an equal status with the rest of the country's subjects. I know there's little chance you've heard of this place, but on the other hand, that is what this video is meant to rectify. Although Yamalo-Nenets is much bigger than France or Spain for instance, population-wise it doesn't stand a chance of reaching any tops. With an average density of 0.7 people per square kilometer, meaning about 540,000 people, this okrug is one of the least densely populated places in all of Eurasia. Of course, the fact that this place forms part of the Siberian realm is the main reason why this is. Nevertheless, I think Yamalo-Nenets is still worth discovering. It's a fascinating part of our world, so I hope you join me as we uncover some unique facts about it. This okrug was originally established to offer a certain level of autonomy to some of the local ethnic groups, in particular the Nenets people. Also known as the Samoyeds, they represent roughly 6% of the okrug's population. In plain numbers, that means about 30,000 people. The Nenets are a Uralic nation, distantly related to European nations like Finland, Hungary or Estonia. Traditionally, they're reindeer herders who still follow their ancient traditions, such as dressing in reindeer skins or sleeping in chums, which are teepee-like tents. Other Uralic groups like the Khants, Komis or Selkups can also be found around here, but Russians make up the majority. And it's worth noting that, because it's a place with good economic perspectives, Yamalo-Nenets is also one of the few places where the Russian population is growing. Yamalo-Nenets is administered from its capital city, Samoyed. The neat fact about this city is that it crosses the Arctic Circle, the only city in the world to do so. It was founded in 1595 in the place of a Khanta settlement during the Russian exploration and conquest of Siberia. Both the Tsarist and Soviet regimes used this city as a place of exile for undesirable citizens, including the famous communist revolutionary Leon Trotsky. The Soviets also built labor camps around the city where 6,500 prisoners were held who had been arrested for anti-regime beliefs, including a belief in God. Nowadays, Samoyed is no longer a poster child of forced labor camps. Quite the opposite, it actually aims to become a center of Arctic tourism. While that's all great and well, keep in mind that this city actually lies on the Arctic Circle. Don't expect any tropical temperatures here. Before we get to the next fact, I'd like to ask you something. This video isn't sponsored, so perhaps you'd consider supporting this channel by becoming a patron. If you still enjoy my content, go visit my Patreon page and help this channel out. And with that said, let's go to fact number 4. Oftentimes you might hear on the news about Europe's great dependency on Russian natural gas imports. If you ever wondered just where does Russia get its immense gas reserves from, wonder no more. Yamalo-Nenets is the country's most important source of the stuff, accounting for more than 90% of its national production. On top of that, there are also large oil reserves here, so if you thought this okrug might not be that big of a deal for Russia, I guess by now you realized it's quite the opposite. The famous Russian company Gazprom gets most of its products from this place. Because of this, the average income of a worker here is the largest in Russia. But also keep in mind how isolated and far away this place is, which means that the prices of goods are pretty high too. Still, if you're not afraid of the cold and want a more than decent income, Yamalo-Nenets might be a pretty good bet. Okay, so let's talk a bit about the climate of this place. It's right at the edge of the Arctic, in Siberia, so as you can imagine it can get pretty cold here. The winters, well, they are long, up to 8 months long. During winter it can get pretty damn windy and cold and dark. Summers, if you can call them that, are short and chilly. The 2 to 3 months of summer Yamalo-Nenets gets see average temperatures of 10 to 15, maybe 20 degrees Celsius, although occasionally you may experience plus 30 degrees. Of course, these are only averages. The northern parts get the most beating, while the southern parts can actually be pleasant. But don't fret too much, the landscapes of this Okrug are pretty awesome and the skies light up with auroras pretty often. For a long time, travelers in this area called Yamal an ice desert. But much has changed in recent decades. It isn't just the natural resources that attract people to this place. Tourism is a growing business and that shouldn't surprise you. This is a unique place where the indigenous people live in harmony with the ways of these lands. Just imagine living in a chum, that's the teepee-like tent, in the middle of nowhere, enjoying the blissful polar lights, and then riding reindeer sledges. After you had enough of that, you can go hiking or skiing in the polar Ural Mountains. Or perhaps you'd want to learn more about the history of this place. The best place to start is the Dead Road, the remnants of a railroad network built by over 300,000 political prisoners. Nearly 1/3 of them died for Stalin's dream of a trans-Arctic railroad, but the project was useless and abandoned after the dictator's death. This is just a small sip of what Yamalo-Nenets has to offer to tourists. The territory of Yamalo-Nenets has taken part in the largest anti-Bolshevik armed rebellion, the West Siberian Uprising. It began in 1921 out of desperation. The Soviet government was enforcing a wartime policy of seizuring food surpluses in Siberia. Bad management, crop failures, and unspeakable violence against locals who refused to give up their food all led to a massive uprising of some 100,000 people. The peasants quickly demanded their right to freely dispose of their products without government interference, but also freedom of speech, assembly, and trade. The Red Army had to be sent in to re-establish order. The fightings were brutal and lasted until the end of 1922, during which epidemics broke out, war crimes were carried out, and because the people were on the brink of a famine, thefts, robberies, and murders took place all over the territory. As we all know, the rebels didn't succeed in achieving their goals and were brutally crushed. Their struggle did, however, bring an end to the food surplus policy, for a while at least. Please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this content. Leave your comments downstairs and don't forget there's a Patreon page where you can support this channel. I hope to see you next time. Bye.